Welcome, my friend. If you're listening and tuning in today, that means that you're curious or interested in exploring the world of breathwork, or it means that you're about to embark on one of my personal breathwork journeys. So I'm so blessed to have you here today. Now, before we dive into doing the work, I want to create this video just to give a little introduction about myself, about who I am, and a little bit about what to expect and what you're going to experience throughout this journey so we can prepare ourselves mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, so that when we get on the session, when we get on the call, we can go right into it. So my name is Andrew Larkin. Breath has been a part of my life, since I can remember. I grew up playing sports, basketball, football, baseball, track, and I had asthma. And I was diagnosed with asthma since I was a kid. When I was 6 years old, I had an asthma attack and it hospitalized me. So my mom rushed me to the emergency room. Doctors took me in, and the doc came out and came to my mom and said, your son was this close to his lungs completely collapsing. It's a pretty close call. And then a couple years later, I remember, because it was Thanksgiving Day or Thanksgiving Eve, I was with family and I had to miss out because I had another asthma attack. So that just stemmed, I have lung issues, I am asthmatic, and that became an identity for myself for a very long time. I went to the asthma doctor and they put me on albuterols, inhalers, Advairs. I was on a nebulizer for a really long time. And I remember my asthma doctor, telling me, my family, that this is something that some people just never heal from. So you're going to have this the rest of your life. Didn't really sit well with me, but I didn't have an understanding of how else to heal it. I had no understanding outside of this world, so I just lived that world, and then I grew up, I survived my sports, and then in 2020, I took an emotional intelligence course, and we had a bonus session where he invited and brought in a breathwork facilitator. First time I had no idea what breathwork was. I hadn't read about it, hadn't heard it on the mainstream media, and I just trusted the guy, Emil Steenveld, who was facilitating, our whole session. And he brought this guy on that he trusted, and he pretty much did what we're doing. He introduced what the session was, what to expect, and then just said, let it rip. So it was an hour-long breathwork session, and I'm a pretty zened out guy. I'm not a big crier. I think I learned from my father, being a man in society, that I suppress a lot of my emotions. I don't express a lot. And when I was going through this journey, I started getting tetany, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I started getting these cold sweats, not the kind of sweat when I'm playing basketball when I'm sweating. It had this had a scent to it. It was almost like when you get sick, there's those cold sweats. For me, it has a very specific scent to it. So it was like something was purging from my body. I started, moving my body, and then I started crying, and I started saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And to this day, I still don't really know who or what I was saying sorry to, but it was something that just, I didn't resist it. I just kind of let it come to the surface. And it was the most beautiful transformation, just a way for me to express myself as a man specifically. No matter, what your gender is, we all have releases and stuck traumas that that can serve to just release it. But especially for me as a man and how I've lived my life, this was the first time I'd ever released emotionally. And I remember the stillness I felt afterwards, after that final, purge, that final release, and then just deep integration, deep stillness, which is how we do our journeys. I never felt such calm in my life when I hit up the facilitator and I was like, yo, dude, I need to learn more. I got the bug. And I remember going on a jog the next morning and just felt easier with my lungs. I was like, wow. And he introduced me to James Nestor, who has a book called Breath. And it's Breath or Breathe, I think it's Breath. And I read that book a couple years later, and then I kind of just didn't really circle back. It was one of those things where you get excited about it, and then you kind of just get back into your old routines. And yeah, and then in 2022, I watched Avatar: The Way of Water, and it's reignited this spark, and I fell in love with the breath through freediving, because in the movie, water is such a big element of it, and a lot of these, characters are swimming underwater for long periods of time, and I started, oh my God, this would be so cool. So I started learning about freediving, and inevitably, you start learning about the breath. How do you practice a breath hold? How do you extend, your CO2 tolerance and all of this journey? So I started going deeper into that, and then I found, just through being exposed and searching more about the breath, I found Brian Kelly, and he was doing a course where he was allowing others to go through a certification to become breathwork coaches, and I jumped on it. I got the scholarship for it, and then I went through the program. It took me I was in it for 3 months, and came out personally learning so much about myself. But now I'm able to facilitate these journeys. And so in order to get certified, you got to get a certain amount of hours, so I've guided a little over 20 journeys. It's one of those things where it's just felt so beautiful. I'm also an actor, so it's performative, it's musical, it's intentional, it's motivational, inspirational. It's this merge of music with breath, with holding space and creating a safe environment and pushing past limitations. Because for me, as I exercise, as I work, if I do anything, it always helps me to have someone with me. Even though I know I want to push a little bit more on my own, when I have someone else guiding me with love, I always find I can push a little bit harder. So that's what I'm here for, and it felt like this perfect match for me personally in my life, and being able to share this medicine and healing with people I love, and people who maybe we've never actually connected and met in person before, but there's something calling out to you. If you're here, there's some energy, something pull, something exciting there, and I think everything happens for a reason. So I'm just so blessed for you to be here today, and that's my journey. So what is transformational breathwork? Transformational breathwork is a conscious connected breathing practice that helps gain access to the subconscious mind, release trapped emotions and traumas, and helps to rewire the brain. So it's crazy because when we breathe, we go deep into these states of, delta, beta, alpha, theta waves, and you get into this almost dreamlike state. So you can get into the frequency of hypnosis, essentially, which is where you're very suggestible, which is where your subconscious lies. So after 15-20 minutes, we call it transient hypofrontality. After we get and push in the beginning and build, we start getting into this flow state where we can tap into deep subconscious patterns, subconscious stories about ourselves, ways basically that therapy doesn't do. Therapy is conscious mind. Breath work, when we go deep and expand for a long period of time, we go straight to the core. We go straight to these emotions that have been stuck for a long time. We can actually pick them and access them and allow them to emerge, and then release it, and then move forward, and then find more and go deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's all up to you. This journey is your journey. And it's so exciting, and even certain traumas can come through, and it can be really scary, but we're here with love. And if these things stay in the body, in order to grow, you grow through what you go through. We can't hide from this anymore. We have to address it, and this is one of the fastest ways I found personally. I've been in the health space for 4 or 5 years now. This has been the fastest way for me to get into those stuck emotions and feelings and trauma. So something that I want to talk about is suppression and repression. So these two different concepts of the way that we handle emotions, the way that we handle traumas in many certain ways. So we can unconsciously repress as a defense mechanism for things that we've been through when we were younger. So these are things that as we go through these journeys and when we go really deep, we can access the unconsciously repressed experiences, feelings, and emotions and traumas from our childhood, things that we haven't thought about or have, shoved under the rug for a very long time. So this is when the brain blocks emotions because of contradicting beliefs. So the unconscious is trying to protect you from feeling the anger, from feeling the pain, from feeling the embarrassment. When we're young, we don't have the mechanisms, we don't have the tools, we don't have really the ability to handle some of these massive traumas or massive ordeals that we might be going through in certain moments. Like if a kid is going through something that kids should not be going through, the body has a way to not deal with it in the moment. So we unconsciously repress it, which is how certain things can happen to us, and then we actually block our memory, so we don't remember what happened to us, where it came from, or where we were, and stuff like that. So when we go deep into the subconscious through these breathwork journeys, we can tap into that stuff that we've repressed for a very long time. So that's one element of all these, trapped emotions. But the other element is consciously suppressing. So this is when it becomes a choice. This is when we choose not to feel because you've been conditioned to believe it's not okay to, or not appropriate to express your feelings. We are put into boxes in this society. A man is supposed to be this, a woman is supposed to be this, a person is supposed to be this. You're supposed to feel, act, and do certain things based off of your childhood, based off of how you were raised, based off of your religious, belief systems. We're put into boxes a lot of times, and we're told we can't do certain things, express certain ways, and that gets stuck here. And when we hold on to feelings that we want to express, when we suppress a lot of our feelings, that can manifest physically, and it can weigh us down emotionally and physically, and it can manifest through ailments and injuries and a lot of pains and a lot of suffering and struggle and sickness. So when we can go through a breathwork journey, go deep into this suppressed and repressed traumas and emotions and let it bubble to the surface, we can literally energetically release everything that's been holding us back, and that weight can just disappear, all in a 1 hour breathwork journey. It's mind-blowing, and it's incredibly exciting. So breathwork is a way to create rapid reconciliation in the mind and the body. And when you go through the journey, we get to carve out 60 to 90 minutes of our day to create a safe space where we get to drop the need to act properly. You're just you, and it's just you and your breath, and then I'll be here to guide you and help you through your maze, your journey, whatever needs to come through. And we'll talk about that more in the session. So we give ourselves permission to release the trauma, stress, and strain we carry in our bodies as we go deep into the psyche and receive clarity and insights which we're usually too busy to access. Again, this is no expectations. I think that's one of the most important things, is to release expectations from this journey. But some people have had, past life regressions through this. They've gone into really, really, really tough times and done just so much healing. The more you dive into the anecdotes and the stories of some people and the healing, it's the most incredible thing. So I hope you're excited, because I'm excited for it. And we get to reflect on old events that we've shoved away or never confronted in a very safe container. That's one of my big passions, something that I love, something I've done so much work on, is creating safe spaces. And the way that I talk, the way that I deliver lines, the way I facilitate the journey, reminding you that you are safe, you are safe, you are safe. It's just you and your breath. And it's going to be scary because we're going to go into dark, deep places, but you are so safe to express everything. And remember, as we go throughout this journey, this is breath work. So we're going to work. I say it's easy because all you got to do is breathe, but we're going to be breathing unlike anything we've ever done in our life. We've never breathed like this before. So we're going to work for this new you that embodies the new you. Whatever you want to bring in, whatever your intention is, as we set an intention before the course, the work that you do, I always say, as we get to our, releases, towards our cathartic moments, the crescendo is give me everything you have right now, because when you get on the other side of it, it's going to feel so much better. It's going to be the greatest peace, the greatest bliss, and you can give a little bit more. Your body can give a little bit more. Trust me, it's the most. We're so amazing. It's so inspiring. So it's very exciting. Now, a couple of things I want to share is there's this cool thing called the 90-second rule. So anger, sadness, jealousy, frustration, disappointment, they all live in the body for only 90 seconds. It's us that makes the decision to hold on and latch on and identify, and we hold on to that for minutes, weeks, months, years, right? But the emotion only actually stays in the body for 90 seconds. And when we can realize that, then we can make the choice to experience it, feel everything for 90 seconds, and then release it. So that's a fun thing I always like to remind others as we go throughout this world and out this journey. And in your sessions, I really want you to feel into everything that comes up. This is the path of least resistance, something that Abraham Hicks talks about a lot. So feel into everything that comes up, so that when we finish, you'll be flooding with just ooze and love and goodness. But I'm talking about emotions, feelings. If you feel like you need to scream, there is this thing called somatic releases that happens when we do breathwork journeys and when we go really deep, right? We're deep in the subconscious, we're feeling into the struggle, the pain, our past, all these things that we're confronting, and we're so brave. And our body might want to move, our hands might want to do something, sometimes it can get pretty gnarly, but feel into it. Don't tighten up. We've tightened up our whole lives. We've stayed confined and pretty our whole lives because we can't be messy, we can't be ugly, we can't be this, we can't be that. This is a safe space for you to express however your body wants to move. If you need to scream, if you need to laugh, if you need to express anything that comes through, whatever you feel coming through intuitively, physically, emotionally, in the body, the journey will be so much more worthwhile if you can allow that to express physically through the body. So I just want to remind you through that is, if you feel it 100%. This is your time. All right, awesome. Now, I got a few contraindications I want to dive into. So these are things that, anytime there's always a risk in anything that we do. If we go driving, there's always a risk of getting into an accident, of things like that. I want to reiterate that this is such an incredibly safe practice. Brian Kelly's done thousands and thousands and thousands of journeys and has never had one really adverse reaction. But granted, we are going to physical spaces that we've never felt before, so you're going to feel certain things, and it can trigger certain things. So there are a few things to consider before doing this journey. So if you have any pre-existing health conditions or concerns, these are things to know before embarking on this journey. So these are anything like if you're pregnant, if you have a history of seizures or epilepsy, cardiovascular issues like cardiac arrhythmia, irregular heart rate, high or low blood pressure, recent heart attack, any heart condition, if you have chronic respiratory issues, heavy-duty medications, if you have osteoporosis or severe mental illness, not like depression or anxiety, more like schizophrenia or anything along those lines, then those are things where you might want to consider talking to a doctor about that. Or if you have that and you're still excited and want to embark on this journey, let me know and we can completely create and change the breathwork pattern and the intensity of the journey so that you can still experience the benefits of breathwork. Even if I want us to go here, push, but even if we're going here and we're cruising along with it, you'll still feel the ease, you'll still feel the benefits of going through this journey, and I don't want us to miss out on it. So if you check any of those boxes, you can talk to a doctor. Granted, don't know how many doctors know the power of breathwork, but definitely talk to me about it, and then we can move forward in a positive, loving way. Breathwork is very low risk. Brian Kelly's done 20,000 journeys. It's amazing. But we also like to say, when in doubt, sit it out. So if you feel uncomfortable, that's already resistance that's being placed, right? And granted, doing hard things is going to be uncomfortable, like taking an ice bath. I never really want to take an ice bath, but I know I feel so much better after I do it. Sometimes I don't want to go to the gym, but I know I feel better after I do it, right? So feel the difference, but definitely listen to your body. And if you're definitely feeling intuitively like you're not ready for this right now, that's totally fine. We can do it at another time, or take the time that you need. No worries, no stress, no pressure. We're here for you. And remember throughout this journey that you're in control, self-modulation. So you get to decide how deep you want to go. I'm going to guide you. So I'm going to be reminding you to breathe. I'm going to do the breath with you in certain moments to remind you of that cadence. If you can push a little bit more, I'm going to remind you to push a little bit more. But if it gets too intense, if the technique starts getting a little gnarly, or you start feeling really, 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 it's like the pain is really settling in, again, I want you to challenge yourself, but at the same time, if it's too physically overwhelming, you control the breath. You control the journey. So you can self-modulate, back off a little bit, just take a beat, breathe through the nose, slow it down, exhale a little bit longer than your inhale, calm the heart rate down, calm the nervous system down, and then when you're ready, return, and then get right back into it. So we'll talk about the breathwork pattern specifically, but remember, you're in control of this journey, and you get to guide it. You get to go as high as you want, as low as you want, so it's all up to you. And then one thing that I love throughout my journeys, some of them are different depending on what journey you choose, but for the main portion of them, we're going to have 2 screams in this journey. So this is one of my favorite things, because screaming is such a powerful act. It's one of those things where when we come into this world, right? We come into this world on a breath, right? It's dark in the womb, and then we come out, and the first thing we do is take a big breath, and then we start screaming, right? And it's so natural. Whenever you feel the need to scream, you scream as a kid, right? Nothing's holding us back. And then as we age and we get a little bit older, and we're told we can't do this, we can't do this, we can't think that way or do this, right? We start suppressing. So there might be times in life where we want to scream, but we suppress it. And this is the suppression and the suppression and the suppression. So in these journeys, I give you permission to scream. And you're going to feel into all the things. It's so beautiful. It's my favorite part. You're going to feel into all the things. And then halfway through, I'm going to have you hold your breath for 60 seconds. And as we do this, if you think that's a long time, trust me, when you breathe a lot, your CO2 goes down. And CO2 is the thing that regulates when if we have more CO2, it means that we have more air hunger, which means we need to take that extra breath. But when we breathe like this, our CO2 is all the way down here. So we can hold our breath way longer. And it's really exciting. It's really cool. So you'll be able to hold it for 60 seconds. And then I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, boom. And I want you to grab a pillow. I want you to grab a pillow so you don't have anyone, neighbors freaking out or roommates freaking out. And I want you to scream, and Lilo and Stitch just scream into that pillow. And you're going to let it all go. And it's going to feel amazing. And then you're going to come back. And then we're going to go right back into it. And then breathe, breathe, breathe for the second half of the journey. And at the very end, that final crescendo, hold for 60 seconds, grab the pillow, final scream. Let everything go. If you're really working on this journey, that scream is going to be one of the greatest screams of your life. And then at the very end, we're going to go back into our integration, and you're done. And we have about 15-20 minutes of just stillness, and it's going to be the greatest peace you've ever felt, depending on how far and deep you go on the journey. So those are some things to consider. And then mentally, physically, emotionally, what happens throughout this journey. So physically, you might have some tingling sensations, maybe a little lightheadedness. There's this thing called tetany. So due to a low CO2, right, when we overbreathe, when we're hyperventilating, essentially is what we're doing, the CO2 drops. So we have a higher blood pH, and we call them lobster hands. So your hands might like go like this, you know, get a little funky. And it might be really uncomfortable and scary and weird at first, but it's such an incredible sign that there's something physically manifesting into this. So like, I like to look at it as, one, you're pushing hard, and this is a good sign because you're on the path. This is natural in this world. It's almost unnatural not to get it, because that means you're maybe not pushing as hard as you can. And then it also means like there's something that physically needs to come through, and it's manifesting physically. So it means things are coming through, things are coming to the surface. So it's really exciting. And then also, the more breathwork journeys, if you like this journey and you want to come back and do it again, the more breathwork journeys you do, the less tetany you'll get. It's just like you go to the gym, you're not as sore as like the first time you go to the gym versus, you know, day 60, you do the same workout and your body's adapted to it. So you'll have less tetany as you move forward. So our bodies are incredible and adapt in amazing ways. Now, mentally, what happens, I mentioned this earlier, we have this phenomenon called transient hypofrontality. So again, after like the 15-20 minute mark, so less than even halfway through the journey, there's a decrease of blood flow and electrical activity, reducing the monkey mind, and it shuts off the inner critic and slows down the ego. So when we get into this state, this is like full flow state. This is like theta brainwaves. This is like magic. And getting into that state is what, you know, we all strive for in meditation. And we can access it in like 20 minutes of just intense, beautiful breathing. And it's amazing. It's amazing. So I'll let you know once we enter that stage or get around that stage. And then that's when the magic can start really happening. So it also creates a space where we can fight limiting beliefs. A lot of this journey, especially when we get into that state of theta, which is very suggestible, you know, kind of that hypnotic state, right? Everything that you hear is really going deep into your subconscious, which means the words that I use are very intentional, and it can guide you in certain ways to address certain limiting beliefs we have about ourselves and then overcoming them. Having old stories that don't serve us anymore, changing those stories to empowering ones. And it's just such a beautiful journey. So it's a great space to do that. And remember, as we go throughout this journey, it's an hour, it's a long time. And there might be moments where you forget to breathe. And if that happens, that happened to me the first time I did it, you know, you just kind of like, you lose yourself, and you're kind of, it might be a minute, you don't even know. Time is like, gets all weird. And you're like, oh shit. I'm not breathing, and then you're like so that's why I'll do the breath with you every once in a while, just to get you back on track, because again, we're not thinking consciously at that point, we're deep into our subconscious. But I would just want to remind you, so if that happens, don't be like, don't beat yourself up over it, don't judge yourself, catch it, and then just return right back into it. So it's totally fine if you go a minute, 2 minutes, or however that is, of not doing the breathing, catch it, go back in. We're here, we're moving forward. You got it. And then emotionally, this is one of the most important things. So if any emotion comes, allow them to come. We talked about this earlier. I'm talking crying, shaking, screaming, moving, whatever your body's needing, it needs to come through. There's a reason they're coming to the surface. There's a reason why we feel anger. There's a reason why we feel jealousy, why, you know, it's all information, and we need to allow to express it. We are no longer suppressing these things in our lives, right? So don't resist it, and don't try to be perfect with the breath as well. So sometimes, you know, we want to be perfect in everything, and this is one of the journeys I have, talks about perfectionism and overcoming that, because it's all about control. But if your body is screaming to move. So if your body wants to do something crazy, let it move. That's a sign. I want you to lean into that. If that means sacrificing the breathwork practice, like the technique versus the movement, the physical cathartic release that's happening, somatic release, I want you to do the release instead of the breath work, right? Again, sometimes we want to be perfect and we want to do the breath, so we're doing the breath instead of the release. I want you to feel into the body and honor those emotions, feel that out for however long, whether that's seconds or minutes, and then return to the breath once you're ready. And then remember, trauma can be passed through the DNA, through cellular memory, generational trauma. And the breath is the doorway to the subconscious to access all these traumas. So basically, we have the power today to stop generational trauma that's been going on for a long time in our family, in our life. It stops with us. It ends with us, as Colleen Hoover would say. So remember, throughout this journey, you're safe. I'm going to remind you many, many, many times. And yeah, man. And that's everything I got. I hope you're excited. You know, a little bit of nervous is okay. That's great. That nervous and excitement are pretty much the same emotion, you know, and come from the same place. So let's have some fun. Again, this is going to be a fun, safe, expressive, healing journey if we allow it to be. I know, just like you go to school, you go to a certain thing, it is what you make of it. People ask, is this good or bad? It is what you make of it. So set the intention beforehand. We'll set the intention right before the journey, and then I'm going to be here, and I want you to get the most out of this. So I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna push you, and then again we can talk about how far we want to go, what you're willing to put in before the session goes, and because we can stop ourselves all the time. We limit ourselves all the time. Not today. Not today. Not today. So also, if you haven't watched the video on the breathwork technique, definitely check that out, because that is going to be the technique, the euphoric breathing style that we are going to use for this journey and for journeys to come. So if this is your first time, I feel so blessed. Thank you for trusting me and going on this journey with me. And if you're back for more, I love you so much. And if this is your first time, I love you so much too. So let's get ready to rock and roll. I'll see you soon. Much love.